Thank you, and thank you very much for coming in and making the submission. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Katrina Hill, Anglican Parish of East Christchurch. Kia ora, Katrina, and welcome.
Kia ora, thank you. Thank you for giving me the time to speak to my submission, which you've had in writing. I highlighted in my written submission the fact that there's no plan for budget to increase community housing in your long-term plan. I just come here to say how wise is that? And then I even thought, how does no plan to budget to increase your community housing fit with your stated principles and your community outcomes, which are one, prioritising the social, cultural and economic well-being of people and communities, that's your priority, and an outcome is sufficient supply of and access to a range of housing. I am grateful that I have a council that acknowledges the need for access to housing, however it needs to be actioned. I come from the east side of Christchurch, so all too familiar with different people that come in that are struggling, and housing is a huge difficulty for them. When you have a home provided, like I do, I must admit it's hard for me to imagine what it is like to go on a waiting list, trying to get bumped up the ladder of being the most needy. That is what you go through if the demand is more than the supply. It is tough when you are at the bottom fighting for a basic need. So I'm sorry to say, but to have no strategy of increasing the community housing is a glitch in your armour of care for our wonderful city. I had a man that came into our centre the other day. Life had been difficult, but there was light at the end of the tunnel as he now had a hope, so was more able to work towards change, and that hope was in the form of a council unit he had been waiting for and finally got. It was great. A, he could afford it. B, as long as he wasn't ridiculously behaved or became a millionaire, it was permanent. And C, the landlord was available to him. By 2031, there will be further population increase, and there will be a greater demand for accommodation for our ageing population, let alone younger ones. We already know that we're in a housing crisis. Why would we not want to consider and plan for those in our community that are being presently squeezed, and in the future more so, as it isn't predicted to get any better? So letting this glitch in your plan go unaddressed, I think, will be even more detrimental, as it is already an identified need for more housing. I also think the majority of people know that if you don't look after the vulnerable, there becomes a spirit of meanness about who we are. No council person should feel embarrassed about wanting to rectify this glitch in an otherwise good plan. You are our leadership and good leadership. Your consultation document tells a story of what you do hope for. On page 56, it says of the consultation document, we also hope to work with others to increase the amount of community housing in Christchurch. You know it's needed, and so I urge the council to plan and budget to provide at least 50 units in the long-term plan, and that should be a priority, and I think it would be a wise decision for the future. Thank you.
Thank you. I mean, that's a very helpful submission. I think that it would be remiss if I didn't highlight that we have got our holdings company looking at how to develop further housing options, but not included on the ratepayers side of things. So I take your point that we do fund a lot of other things, but it is, we've always, and yes, there has been an element of pride in that we haven't had to call upon the ratepayers because of the initial investment that was made by central government about 40, 50, whatever it was, years ago, in terms of the investment in council housing around the country. So we are looking at what options are and how we also support OCHT, the Housing Trust, to develop further houses as well. So it's definitely on our radar, but it's not spelt out in the LTP because we are seeking to find non-ratepayer funded mechanisms.
Good news.
Yeah. So thank you very much.
Yep, that's great. Thank you.
Thank you. Right, so now we will adjourn for afternoon tea, and we're a little bit early.